Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Brenda Lee's podcast. Today I'm going to be talking about a topic very fun and exciting for me to talk about for myself, which is how life was growing up in the 2000s, in the early 2000s, because I was kind of a part of the early 2000s because I was born in 2001. So I was literally born a year after the 2000s had just hit off and everything became a norm, like a big thing. So that's what this topic is going to be about today. Yes, I'm excited to talk about this topic. I hope you guys like the background and everything, all the handbags and purses that I have. Yeah, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Okay, so I want to start off talking about how life was for me growing up in the early 2000s, because it was a lot of memories I had growing up in the 2000s from when I was a child all the way up until an adult. It was a lot of memories I had, such as growing up in a big household with a big family, tons of family members and stuff I was always around throughout life. I remember going to a bunch of block parties that family would have, and cookouts that family would have. I don't even know if block parties and cookouts is even still a thing now. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But me being a young girl and a child at the time that grew up in the Philly area, and growing up, it was fun. It was very fun. My childhood was very fun. I remember going outside, playing outside with my siblings, sometimes my cousins that lived in the area. Or sometimes if we had friends that came over to our house when we were younger, we would have friends to come over and have play dates and stuff. It was just a lot of stuff going on throughout those years at that time. I feel like that was a great time and a great era to be a part of, to live my life in, because things was much more simple then. And the way how things are now is not how it was then. It's a big, huge difference. I remember one of the things that we used to do a lot to keep all of our music and everything together, and to make a playlist of songs and music that we liked. Back then, it used to be a thing that we used to do that we would call burning CDs. We used to literally put the CD into the laptop and download all the songs that we liked onto the CD. So we would put all the songs we liked onto the CD, and then we would take the CD out of the laptop, and then we were able to play the CD into a CD player, and that's how we played our CDs and stuff. I don't see many people use that now, but that was a big thing that we used in the 2000s, was the CD players, because that was how we would play our music and listen to our music. Or if you had what was it called, an MP3 player? Yeah, if you had an MP3 player, that was another way to play music. But I didn't have one when I was younger, but I did have a CD that I did burn that had a bunch of Beyonce songs on it, because I think at that time when I was younger, I was a big fan of Beyonce. I really, really adored her. I really liked her, and I liked her music at the time. Before her music came about the way it is now in this time, I really liked the older Beyonce, the OG Beyonce, when she was younger, when she first started off. That was the Beyonce I was really into. So I used to download a bunch of her songs. I had a whole CD with a bunch of her songs on it that had all her OG hit songs from the 2000s, like Diva, Run the World. It was Upgrade You. And then it was a bunch of songs, even though some of those songs was probably not even appropriate for me to even be listening to at the age that I was. But I used to listen to them anyway, because I just liked Beyonce that much. I remember I used to get on the laptop or the computer, because I remember we started off with a box computer. Because that's what everybody was using at that time. And you probably might have some people that still use it to this day, just because they have to get their money's worth. We started off with the box computers, and then as time went on, we did end up getting a laptop for the household when we were younger. Because when we were younger, we used to to play video games and stuff on the computer, so that's what they got that for. And we used to do that a lot. And I remember getting on the computer and going on YouTube and searching up all of Beyonce's songs and listening to them the whole day, because I didn't really have a phone at that age. And the age I'm talking is more so 7, 8, 9, 10. like around that age. I didn't really have no phone. And at the time when I was growing up, kids at that time during that era wasn't really like, they wasn't really into phones and devices like they are now. Like anybody from my time would know that, like growing up in the 2000s, a lot of kids were not really on their phones at all. Side or like going over a relative's house, like a cousin or aunt or uncle. For us, it was more so like our cousins, the ones that came around, because we had certain ones that came around, certain ones that we didn't really see as much, or we only saw them when it was certain occasions or whatever. So yeah, we had certain ones that we would see and certain ones that we didn't see. But for the most part, we spent most of our time playing outside. Like I remember playing outside in the backyard with like my sisters and brothers. We would be outside all day, but we would be in the house before nighttime hit because we was only able to be outside for a certain amount of time. But we spent most of our time outside, and we would literally take stuff from in the house outside so we can have stuff to play with. And we would literally be outside playing for hours. But it's different when you grow up with siblings and you have sisters and brothers to play with compared to when you're the only kid and you don't really have no one to play with. So you know, in that case, some people can relate and some people can't, depending on if you grew up with siblings or not, because not everybody have siblings. And then for those of us that do, you grew up playing with your siblings, so you didn't have to really play by yourself. And that's how it was for me. I had my siblings to play with, and I used to love playing dolls with my sisters. Like, we used to pull out all of our doll stuff and just play dolls the whole entire day up until it was time for us to go to bed and get ready for school the next day. Literally, it was the same routine throughout the week from Monday through. The only time we were able to really stay up late was like Fridays, Saturdays, and then Sundays we would have to get ready for school the next day. You know, it was the same routine. We was definitely on a schedule. Like, we had a certain time where we had to be in bed and we had to go to sleep. But we used to go to sleep early on the weekends too, even though we didn't have to because there was no school, but we still used to do that. But I guess a routine that we was so like used to, that we was into at the time, where it's like we got so used to it, so we just kept doing it even on the weekends too when it wasn't needed because we didn't have school on the weekends. But you know, when you're so used to doing something all the time, that's how that is. So yeah, but we used to be outside. We used to play outside for a good amount of hours, and then we would go in the house, eat dinner, and get ready for the next day. And we either used to have our scooters outside or we would have our bikes outside. I think we started off with scooters first, and then later on in time, that's when we got bikes. I even have a bike now as an adult, and I don't even ride it. I don't even ride it because I barely go outside really. And it's too cold to really be outside now, but it's still good to go out and get out from time to time and still get your exercise in here and there. But we were very active as a kid. I was very active as a kid. I was definitely always outside. I enjoyed going outside. The summertime used to be the best time to go outside, and I used to love going outside in the summertime with my siblings. And I remember our block, like our street in the neighborhood that we used to live in years ago when I was a kid, they used to have block parties. Like, we used to have block parties outside of the house on the street that we lived in, the exact street we lived on, the neighborhood we were in. We used to have block parties on our street in our neighborhood. Literally everybody used to like cook food, set up tables and chairs outside for everyone to sit down and chat it up. Like, it was only really the adults that was talking and interacting, and then the kids would either like play with each other, or we would play with someone we knew in the neighborhood, or a friend or a family relative or whoever would come and show up to the block party. Or we would just be sitting with our parents or whatever if we didn't really want to like play, because you know how that can be sometimes. But for the most part, when we used to have block parties on the street that we lived on, I used to really just bring my scooter or my bike outside, and I would just ride my bike up and down the street. Literally, I would do that the whole time. So yeah, I used to do that, and then if I got hungry, then I would eat food. I would stop, eat food, and then play. But that's literally what the kids did the whole time. And then we used to have family that used to bring their kids with them, and then we would play with our cousins or whatever. You know how sometimes you get a little bit bored playing by yourself, or if you get, you know, if we got bored or whatever, there was definitely stuff for us to do. So we never was really bored. It was always stuff to do. And I remember at that time, like, a lot of the adults used to bring stuff to the block parties and stuff and the events that we would have. They used to bring stuff with them for kids to do. Like, I remember a lady bringing a bunch of games for the kids to play. outside, like stuff for you to do outside so you could just be active and play and do what kids do and you're not all up in your parents' face the whole time. So, yeah, we used to be doing that. And then when it was time to, go in the house and stuff, that's when things kind of got like a little bit dry. But when we were in the house, like when it was time, like times when it would get late and it was time to like, get ready for bed and stuff, we would just watch TV. It was very chill. Like when I see a lot of kids on electronics and devices now, I just be thinking to myself, like, what were their parents thinking when they decided to buy them a phone or an iPad, Because when I was growing up and I was most of these kids' age, I didn't have no phone. I didn't even have no tablet. I didn't have nothing. So I just be thinking sometimes like, why do most of these parents buy their kids electronics? But then I hear other adults say that it's because a lot of parents now don't, it may not be every parent, but a lot of parents now don't always be in tune on what their child's doing. Like they don't always be up under their kid, like involved in what their kid got going on. So a lot of the time, the parents buy these kids electronics and devices so that their child is not always in their face all the time. And it's understandable for them if they're a little bit older, like a teenager or whatever, because they're old enough. But at least when they're a teenager, they're more out and about. Like they're doing their own thing when they reach that age because they have their friends and then they're going to want to do stuff with their friends and go here and there with this and that person. So once they get a little bit older, and they reach like their teenage years, they pretty much be doing their own thing. So they're not really in your face technically. But when they're a little bit younger and they don't really have much freedom to really go out and do stuff compared to a teenager, yeah, they're going to be up under you because that's how any young kid is that can't really do much or that can't do but so much because they're not old enough. So yes, they're going to be up under you because that's just how a lot of kids is. You have a lot of kids that's just lovable and that just want attention. They want all the attention from their parents, so they're gonna be up under their parents as much as possible. There were even times when I was like that. Like I was a mommy's girl growing up. I always wanted to be with my mom, but there were some times when I couldn't be, and that happens. But that's how it is. It was a different time and things are just so differently now in life compared to how it was then. But what they do need to understand is that we didn't always live life as kids off of electronics and devices. And a lot of the technology and stuff that's around now wasn't around when I was growing up. So it's a total huge difference, but it was fun as a kid. There was a lot of fun stuff we did. Like I remember going on family trips every summer. We went to Wildwood a couple of times. We went to King's Dominion, which were all like, amusement parks. We would go there, stay there for a little while, stay at the hotel, and then we would do different stuff every day while we were there. We used to go to amusement parks a lot, but going to Wildwood was really fun because we used to go to like the little stores and stuff where you can buy like souvenirs, or if they had like little toys, or if we saw something that we wanted, we were able to like get like whatever we wanted really. I didn't always get toys. Like I had toys, but I didn't always, get toys from the store too. And then you have the store where you can buy the little souvenirs from and stuff. And we would spend time there for it. So fun. It used to be so fun just going on trips, bonding with my siblings, playing with each other, just enjoying the trip with each other. That was always fun. One thing I will say is that I've been through a lot of childhood, adventures and or go through anything without a sibling or without somebody else being a part of the experience with me. We all went through the things we went through with each other, and we had each other at the end of the day, and we stuck together, so that made things a lot more fun and less boring when you don't have to do it by yourself, so those were very good times. And then I remember one family restaurant that we used to go to a lot that still is around to this day. I actually have one up here where I live at. And one of my favorite restaurants that we used to go to all the time, which was a family restaurant, which you probably don't see around in many places, is Friendly's. Was a big, huge like restaurant that was a big thing at the time. Or if you never heard of it, you might want to look it up because everybody that I know and that I knew as a kid growing up during the same time as me knows about that restaurant. It was a family restaurant, a very popular restaurant that you could go to with your family and your kids. And we used to go there all the time. They had very good mozzarella sticks and they had very good French fries. Because every time when I would go there and we would go as a family and they would be like, what do you want to order? The waitress would ask us, what do you want to order? I'll be like, I want mozzarella sticks and french fries. Like, I used to get that all the time because it was just so good. So we used to go out to dinner a lot as a family. You know, it was a lot of great memories, like a lot of bonding, a lot of connections, and all that other stuff for the most part. Like, don't get me wrong, there's always highs and there's always lows, but you know, I try to always keep in mind and speak more of the good and the positive things that I experienced as a kid more so than the negative things. Because the negative things you don't really want to talk type of way. So that's why I try not things that I don't want to think about. Like, she used to come to our house with bags of stuff. It used to be like hugs, you know, a bunch of stuff that we like to eat. Because she used to spoil us a lot. And it was literally four of us. So we all used to get spoiled by our grandmother, which was like the best. That was always the best. Parents, you could get it from the grandparent. So that's how that was for us. She was a fun loving grandmother. She was very supportive. She was there for everybody, especially her grandkids, but she was just the type of person that was there for everybody. Like, if you had it, she just cherished so many good times and memories in my life, so I will always keep her known. Like, if it wasn't for her to push me to be who I am today, I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't be doing half of the things I'm doing. Proud. I got to do this to make her happy. Because I know if I was to do something that she wouldn't want me to do, I would make her unhappy. She would be disappointed and upset with me, and I would not want that. So I'm going to do whatever I got to do to make her proud of me. It can be hard sometimes.